Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time! Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Taylor's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Oh, now, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. On this Wednesday, we've made it to the halfway point. Appreciate you being with us as always. Looking forward to Cal Nedrip joining us from the Indy Star as the high school scene is getting into week 5. Isn't that crazy? But it is what it is. College game going into week 4 and the NFL going into week 3. Can the Colts get to 3-0 on this season? Well, that'll be fun. We'll talk to Matt Taylor tomorrow. Doug Bucshon joining us now from Blue and Orange and Blue News, the On3 outlet for the Illini. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I think I jumped in a little bit early here. But,
you know what? Early bird gets the worm sometimes. How's everything going over in Champaign?
Things are going well. You know, the football team's winning. They're 3-0, ranked number 9 in the country, 8 in the coaches poll. Sold out most of their games for the rest of the season. Looking forward to the trip over to Bloomington for IU this weekend. I think we're going to get a better feel for where the team kind of stands, where both teams kind of stand, really, considering the schedules so far. So things are looking good here in Champaign.
Yeah, no question. This is a make or break game for both teams in the regard of, especially for Indiana. They have to have this game because of impending games. After this game, they go to Iowa, then they go to Oregon, and then later on, you have to go to Penn State. So, but they also need to win this game because of all of the smack talk from last year. Oh, they didn't beat anybody. They didn't they didn't beat a ranked team, yada, yada. So this is the opportunity Indiana needs. They need to take care of business to kind of quash that and then take their chances out in Oregon and down at Penn State. But this is setting up to just be a fantastic game with two dynamic offenses. It's going to come down to the defense in both of these games, and I think that's where questions may lie for both teams. For Indiana, how solidly have they replaced some of the what they lost on the defensive line, because they're still solid at linebacker. They still have Mikael Kamara on the line, an All-American, and you've got D'Angelo Pons in the backfield there, an All-American. But that defensive line is still they haven't been tested yet. So that's going to be an interesting test for Indiana's D-line. And Fernando Mendoza, he's looked, to me, just looked better each week. And last week, even though it was against Indiana State, I get it. But he just looks sharp, and everything looks sharp. So that's from the Indiana side. What is the Illini shown their weakness to be so far?
Just consistency, and then starting slow. They started slow against Duke. Had a rough first half. Couldn't protect Altmaier in the first half. Duke had 4 sacks. Then they started slow again against Western Michigan. Couldn't run the ball. A lot of those inside zone and gap plays between the tackles were going nowhere in the first half against Western Michigan. Put it together in the second half. They saw something that they corrected, obviously, and I think it was an effort thing too. I think they went into that game looking ahead to Indiana, and started slow. And Brett Bielema really had a fit at halftime of the Western Michigan game, and kind of lit a fire under him, and played really well in the second half. And when you don't play your best game and you still win 38-0, I think you're a pretty good team. And that's what kind of happened to him on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. And neither one of these teams have been tested with although Illinois did go down and play Duke. That's a road game. So that's a difficulty in and of itself there. I'm not sure Duke is showing to be as tough as we thought they might be, but that's neither here nor there. This is setting up to be an electric environment, sold out Memorial Stadium. To me, it's got to be Indiana's biggest home game since 1967, Doug. Doug Bucshon from Orange and Blue News with us, because they have had tons of top 5 teams in Memorial Stadium in that time, because they were part of the Big Ten East for a long time. So it was a running scheduled deal. What's top 5 team are they playing this year? But this is a time where, hey, Las Vegas has Indiana a 4.5-point favorite to win the game. So that's the difference. And that is what makes this game so big. And the fact of this is, for both teams, as I said, this is going to set them on the trajectory of a CFP season or not. Because if Indiana loses this game, it's not that they can't make it, but you have those looming difficult road games yet to come up and the entire season. Same for Illinois. I don't think their schedule is quite as daunting, but they still have tough games to play, and it's a long way to go until the end of the season.
It is. They have USC for homecoming, and USC is looking like they're a little bit better than people thought they were going to be. They play at Washington, and Washington doesn't lose at home. They won every game at home last year. It's hard to beat.
Tough place to play. Tough place to play. And of course they have Ohio State at home, the number 1 team in the country. So their schedule, as you said, is not as daunting as Indiana. And when we looked at it preseason, it was a workable schedule. You're looking at 9-3 season, 8-4 worst case scenario maybe for Illinois when they're coming off such a good season last year. But this is a huge game. And they brought up yesterday, and Brett Bielema talked about, this is the first time these two teams have played as ranked opponents, both ranked, since 1950. And that's kind of the storyline there to me, is the maybe a little bit of the changing of the guard in the Big Ten Conference, even though the top teams, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, are still sitting there at the top. But it shows the competitiveness of the conference, the depth of the conference, and I think it shows a leveling of the playing field a little bit, where you can, like Indiana, you can rebuild your roster pretty quick. I mean, you go out and get some guys from the transfer portal, as Kurt Signetti did, brought some guys from James Madison, other guys in the portal, Mendoza from Cal. You can have a competitive team lickety split, and that's what they did. Illinois has done it a little bit different. I think they've built it over time. It's Brett Bielema's 5th year, and they got some depth about the program. They've retained their own players. So they've done it a little bit different than Indiana, but both teams are upstart programs in the Big Ten with something to prove on Saturday. And that's kind of the major storyline to me, is how these two teams are kind of crashing the party in the Big Ten Conference. Absolutely. And Illinois is, I don't trying to be this year's Indiana per se, the surprise team, but they're not catching anybody by surprise after a 10-win season last year. So, but they have been thought of by a lot of people to be that team to make it into the CFP this year, a new team. But this game right here is going to make a huge difference. Not that it can't be overcame, like I said, but it's just perception that goes into people's minds a lot of the times. But man, I think this is going to be a fun game. Could be a high scoring game, Doug. Doug Bucshon from Orange and Blue News with us.
Well, what I've learned over the years is if you think it's going to be a high scoring game, then it ends up being a defensive struggle, and then vice versa.
Exactly.
So who knows? I mean, like you said, Indiana have played a soft schedule so far. Illinois played at Duke, but Duke's probably not turning out to be quite as good as we thought they were going to be. It's just hard to say. They could cancel each other out. Now, Indiana is explosive. Mendoza can throw the ball vertically. They have big, fast wide receivers. They protect him well in the pocket, and I think they can move the ball up and down the field. Now, Illinois is a little bit different. Illinois likes to do it in a little more physical way. They like to grind it out on the ground. Altmaier is not a guy that's going to throw it 50 times a game. They will air it out if they have to, if they don't get the ground game going. And, Barry Lundy's not going to keep running it into the heart of the Indiana defense if it's not going anywhere. But it's a little bit contrast in styles, I think. So we're going to see what kind of wins out, physicality versus a little more explosiveness on the part of Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana has kind of picked up the pace on that side of things as these 3 games went along. And the last game, of course, I know it was against a very outmatched Indiana State team, but things just looked crisper for Fernando Mendoza. Obviously, he found Omar Cooper Jr. quite frequently as they connected 4 times for touchdown passes. Week before that, it was Elijah Surratt that he connected 3 times with for touchdown passes. And then there's EJ Williams out there as well. And some other guys are going to have to step up. Huge loss for Indiana as they lose Lee Beebe, one of their top running backs already for the season. Indiana's fortunate they have some depth there at that position with Kalon Black returning and with the addition of Roman Hemby. But, man, depth is always much better to have some depth.
Not just that, but the running backs, they can start to drop like flies. You lose one, and now you're worried about losing. If you lose another one, what happens? Illinois was kind of in the same boat last week. Aiden Lafrue, who's their starting tailback, didn't play, had a lower body injury. We won't know until Thursday what his status is going to be for Saturday. I think he's going to be okay. Brett Bielema said on Monday that he's going to practice maybe today, maybe tomorrow, and should be available. Illinois kind of plays a 3-headed monster at tailback with Lafree, Caden Fagan, a big, power back, 6'4", 250, and then Khalil Valentine, sophomore, who's really showed something this year. We always knew that he was an explosive runner, a quick twitch kind of kid. When he gets out in the open field, he can outrun guys. But he's taken a big step this year with his vision and ability to run off tackle, and he's a little stronger and finishes his run. So a little bit in the same boat with the running backs. Like I said, if you lose one back, Illinois saw this a couple years ago. I think they were down to like one scholarship back 2 years ago, and they can start to drop, and you certainly don't want to lose a guy like Beebe.
There are only 2 teams with that are in the top 10 in scoring offense and defense through week 3. Nebraska, one of those. Indiana, one of those. Brigham Young, the other. But the Big Ten with 2 of those 3 schools. But if this were to hold true, this would show or follow a pattern by Indiana last year as having been so good on both sides of the ball. I was wondering as far as the defensive line, because like I said, they replaced a lot. James Carpenter and CJ West, Linnell Carr Jr., they lost a lot of talent on that line. And we weren't sure how well they were going to replace it early on. They gave up in the first game a couple of 75-plus yard runs to Old Dominion's quarterback, who Old Dominion turned out to be a better team than some of us thought they might be after their win over Virginia Tech. But, it's going to be interesting to see how both of these defenses play against each other. Illinois, a little more balanced, although Indiana has rushed for 300 yards in each of its first 3 games. And you got Fernando Mendoza back there throwing for chunk yardage as well.
Yeah, for Illinois, they've been kind of a bend but don't break defense here early on. They have some good players. They have, Gabe Ackus, an edge rusher who's really physical bull rusher, probably one of the best edge rushers in the Big Ten. Xavier Scott, a hybrid nickel corner player, really good. Matthew Bailey is safety, but they've given up yards, but they haven't given up a lot of points. And you worry about that going into a game against Indiana in the Big Ten, because Indiana they're not going to be like Western Michigan. They're going to finish drives, and so you can't keep relying on turnovers. You can't keep relying on goal line stands when you enter conference play against a quality opponent like Indiana. Like I said, they've given up yards, but they haven't given up points. They shut out Western Michigan. They kind of shut down Duke in the second half in that game, like I said, you can't keep giving up these yards and explosive plays and expect to keep Indiana out of the end zone.
What has been the thought by the Illini fans in the camp heading into this game? What's been the pulse?
Well, I think they're holding their breath like everybody else. They know they have a good team. The fans are excited, of course. They're buying tickets. Champagne's buzzing. But it's like everybody else, especially the national media. It's gonna take something special for Illinois and Indiana to make true believers out of people. They look at the history of these programs and it may be fair or unfair. They look at the history of the programs and maybe they don't pay a lot of attention to them and they don't watch them play. And they think it's Illinois and Indiana. It's not Michigan and Ohio State. So I think fans are still waiting to become true believers that both of these programs are really sitting there. Illinois number 9 in the country. That's rare air for Illinois. They haven't been there in a long time. I mean, and Indiana's 19, but 3-0 college football playoff team last year. So people are just kind of waiting and seeing, hey, is this for real? And they want to believe. And they're buying tickets, but just like the national media, I think that they're not quite true believers yet.
Yeah, and again, I mentioned now the importance for both teams of this game, and you just touched on another reason, because whoever loses this game is going to kind of not be forgotten, but not looked at by a lot of the national pundits. Who are like, yeah, okay, well, you lost your chance there, so we're going to put you aside, and now we're going to continue to prop this team up, whomever that ends up being. But that's going to be a kind of a huge advantage at this point, because it's good to get your propped ups going about right now.
Yeah, I think they're going to, whoever, if somebody loses bad in this game, they're going to say, see, I told you so. It's Illinois football. Or, see, I told you so. It's Indiana football. But if they both play well and it's a competitive game and a close game, I don't think you'll see them drop all that much in the eyes of the media and of the fans. But a poor performance is going to be one of those I told you so moments for either one of these teams.
Doug, you guys at Orange and Blue, Doug Bucshon from Orange and Blue News, the On3 Illini outlet, moved over to On3. How's that been for you guys, man?
It's been great. On3's got such a national presence, a little bit different than what we're used to. So many different national writers that cover high school football, with a lot of different people. So it's been great. I think we've got a good response from the fans. It was seamless transition, and our content is pretty much the same as it's always been, but it's enhanced, by all of these national writers and the attention that we're getting from the On3 network. So it's been great so far.
Yeah, I agree, man. What Shannon Terry is continuing to do there is recently just adding the Field of 68 to that on the college basketball side, and bringing in a lot of bigger name national writers, in addition to the great local coverage that I know you guys are providing to the Illini fans, and the guys at the Hoosier.com are supplying to Indiana fans. But it is without question the go-to place, man. It's just been phenomenal to see that grow, and that's great timing. Is I don't think college sports, while it's at this weird place with all that's going on with the money being made by players and all that increasing nonstop, it's still college football is picked up right where it left off last season after a tremendous season, with great games already in the early part of this season for the games that have been scheduled. I've already enjoyed it just as much, and it's like, man, it keeps on going. It's awesome. It's
never been more popular. I keep waiting for the doom and glimmers to, NIL is going to ruin college football. It hasn't, and it's not going to. And I think that's one thing I really love about our network on the On3 network is we deal in reality. We're not holding on to the past. NIL and money is a big part of this sport. It's a huge part of the recruiting process. And we embrace that a little bit, and we start asking those questions. And I think in recruiting, we've covered recruiting for 15 years. Nobody wants to ask a kid or a player, how much did NIL impact your decision to go to this school, or how much did it impact your decision to stay here and not go sompace else? Well, that's the reality of college sports now. and different programs are managing it a different way. At Illinois, they're not like a program that's going to throw $4 or $5 million at a high school kid. They're a program that's going to retain a kid like Luke Altmaier, who had SEC offers in the offseason to jump ship and transfer. A kid like Gabe Ackus, who could have declared for the NFL draft, but when he started weighing his costs and benefits of staying or going, and that revenue sharing money was coming, and there was NIL money for him, he made the decision to stay instead of gambling on the NFL. And that's kind of how Brett Bielema has approached it, is retaining guys. Yes, showing high school kids the possibility of what you can make if you come to Illinois, but not really throwing a huge amount of money like they did at Michigan for their quarterback, that kind of thing. But as I said, our network, we deal with reality. We tell the fans the truth. We tell them what's going on in college football, and it has never been more popular. The TV ratings are great. The stadiums are selling out. So dim and glimmers can take their ball and go home, because college football is in a great place right now.
It certainly is. Doug Bucshon from Orange and Blue News, the Illini outlet for On3. Appreciate you, my friend.
Anytime. Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, buddy. We'll see you on Saturday.
You will.
Doug Bucshon from Orange and Blue News.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage, and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.